He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
All right, so Nolte show today. Happy Wine Shirt Friday to all those who celebrate. My real-life godfather, John Nolte, is with me from vacation. But are you ever on vacation, John, when you do what you love for work? And I know that's you. And I know you always want to be working. That's John's de facto mindset. I think John actually has a counter over his computer of how many days of labor he has to do before he can retire. So it's the what have you been doing? You some exotic location, or are you just working?
No, I'm at home. I was power washing my house a couple weeks ago, and on my decks, at least the decks in the front, I discovered that the railings were being held together by a thin layer of latex paint. So I've had to remove all of those, and I'm replacing those. I built my own railings this time, mainly because I just didn't want to spend the money again and have all the same issues again.
Right. Did you? No, it's interesting how houses have. My house now has been pretty easy, but my first house, it was such a money pit. It was just a constant. It needed constant attention, just so it didn't fall over. Like, not like we were adding cool stuff. We're going to add a stone pizza oven to the back. No. It was just like if we don't do this, this thing is going to fall over. Like if a stiff wind. Let me ask you about, is it all DIY stuff? Can you throw in a podcast or something to listen to, or you got to focus too?
No, it's all I'm just doing it myself. And I had my well installed, so my yard doesn't have any grass. So I had to plant grass and put straw over it. And of course, within 2 hours of that, we had this massive storm, which probably washed away all my grass seeds. So I'll know that in a couple of days.
It sounds, I admire you, and I don't burn out so that you're too furious when you come back to work. There's a lot of stuff that I want your commentary on when you come back and join us full time in the Breitbart virtual newsroom. There's a few places that I would go to start, John, but one thing that has happened while you were away is this devastating flood that wiped out this Christian camp in Texas. And there is this rush to blame the government as if the government controls the weather, and if the government could have foreseen such a thing and done enough to mitigate. And there will be a time to go back, and we'll find mistakes that are made and hopefully won't be made again. But you lived through one of these things. I think was it Helene? I always forget the names.
Yeah, it was Helene. It was almost a year ago.
Yeah. And so that was a year ago, different government, and they did terrible too. And then we learned that FEMA was literally skipping over houses with Trump signs. And then when they got busted for it, instead of doing the decent thing and lying about it like they should have, they actually said, oh no, yeah, we did. We really skipped over the Trump houses. They came clean on it, which with some bizarre logic that the people in the houses weren't going to listen to them or something. So it was, I just kind of wanted your commentary on that, because I was really alarmed by the quick nature that this was politicized. It was quicker and more full-throated than usual from the monsters living among us.
Yeah, especially in the media, and it was all untrue. I mean, now we know that weather station was overstaffed. We know that the National Weather Service sent out a warning, that they sent texts, that they did everything they could possibly do about a flood that exploded within about a half hour in the middle of the night. And I'm sorry, if Texas wants to put sirens up, that's fine. They're also blaming it on global warming when the same camp was hit in the exact same way 40 years ago. So it's all BS. And some people just need to come to terms with the fact that A, the government can't protect you from everything, and B, you have to be somewhat proactive in your own life to ensure that you're ready for something like this. Now, I don't know anybody who could be ready for floodwaters that rise above a house within a half hour. So I'm not blaming anyone.
I couldn't believe it. I thought I misspoke. It rose like 26 feet. And it's like, I thought it was 26 inches. Like I thought I was misreading it.
You can't get on your roof. You can't swim in that. Obviously, it's just an absolute catastrophe. No one can save you from that. But at the same time, when Helene hit, we moved here in 2011, moved back here in 2011. Helene hit in 2024. 13 years I was prepared with 2 weeks worth of food, 2 weeks worth of water, a generator, because I was worried something like this might happen. So when everything hit, we were okay, and we actually could get around better than I thought we could. But the government didn't show up for a week. I could practically see the airport, the local airport from my house, and it was a week before the government choppers came in with their big pallets of food and water. So you just have to assume the government's not going to help you and prepare accordingly. But with something like that flood, that's just something nobody can do anything about that. I mean, Texas could put sirens up. Maybe that would have helped, but there's no one to blame for that, including especially the victims.
So do you think we get any apologies, any mea culpas, or just the usual, just we act like nothing matters?
Yeah, it's always going to be Trump's fault. It's always going to be the government didn't do enough from the same people because they're so invested in tearing down Trump. Trump just signed the triumphant, big, beautiful bill. Huge triumph for him. Oh, so let's blame him for a flood. Let's Katrina him. But the good news is that it didn't work. It just didn't. It didn't catch on, and the lies were exposed immediately because the media can no longer keep up with social media, and the facts get up too quick, and they're ridiculed. And when Trump does do something wrong, it's not like there's a cult here, because you could see that, like when he's thinking about giving amnesty to illegals, he gets immediately massacred on social media. So social media is really where it's at. That's where it's happening now. And the media, the corporate media just doesn't matter that much anymore. They're just sort of nattering on the sides, trying to throw everything they can, hoping something will stick. And it just doesn't anymore because all they do is lie.
The next thing that I want to get your take on, John, is something that's over your left shoulder. Is you've got a picture of Superman there, and we're really barreling towards a pretty cool news cycle here with regards to the new Superman movie that's coming out from James Gunn, who's taken over the DC studios. Now, James Gunn is a clownish figure in public, but he's done some good movies. I really liked the Dawn of the Dead remake. I know we both liked that one that he wrote. He had some good cult horror movies early in his career, which were good. I thought the first Guardians of the Galaxy was tolerable. I could not make it through the second one, but I don't know, it might be good. My kids like it. And he did some other things with some mixed results, but clearly he's got some talent. They gave him the DC studio, which is strange because he'd been canceled for saying horrible things online, and you don't normally fail upward at that level in Hollywood. And then now he's out there and he's basically just trying to sabotage the movie. It's the only way I could analyze it, saying that it's about immigrants, saying it's about politics. And then he's got this buffoonish brother who's in the movie who's out there saying, if you don't like the movie, you're a bad person, in essentially. And so now he's got to do a apology tour before the thing's even starting to come out. The previews are atrocious. This could be a real train wreck we could be watching, or we could have totally misread it. No one's seen the movie. At least I haven't seen it. And I know from you, John, better than anyone, you can't judge movies you haven't seen yet. Maybe it turns out to be great. But do you have any thoughts observing from afar? What's going on?
It's just stupid. I mean, everything they've been doing is stupid. They should have just kept politics out of it. I just don't know why these people cannot control themselves. And it reminds you of why there was a studio system when Hollywood first started, because you needed smart executives, mercenary executives telling the artists to shut up. And they just don't anymore. And why would he? It makes no sense to me that he would do this, except his own ego. And I'm going to see the movie today, and I'll review it today, even though I'm on vacation. This is my work day.
Wow, thank you.
But
great news.
It's important. But they're never going to touch what Christopher Reeve and Richard Donner accomplished in those first two Superman movies. Those were they totally understood Superman, and from what I'm reading about this one, They don't appear to, but that doesn't mean it won't be a fun movie. That doesn't mean it won't be a good time. My mind is totally open. It can't be any worse than Superman Returns, that's for sure.
No, yeah, that was. I remember seeing that and just finding it mind-blowingly atrocious. But that's all. I have no other recollection of it other than it seemed like everything about it was terrible.
What they don't understand about Superman is that he is 100% good. And what Zack Snyder tried to do with him is turn him into a Christ figure, which that's not what Superman is. Superman is achingly human, but his dilemma, Jesus never had to figure out what to do that was good or bad. And Superman's dilemma, when he's at his best, is when he's trying to figure out what is the right thing to do, especially when he's faced with an impossible decision. It's Superman 2, which is another great Superman movie, 1980. Superman has to choose between his love for Lois and saving the planet because he gives up his powers for her. That's, what do I do? Do I hurt this woman? Do I destroy this woman? Or do I do this? In the original Superman movie, he's dealing with, I'm ridiculed. They make fun of me. As a kid, do I show off? That's what makes Superman Superman, the moral dilemmas, always trying to do the right thing. And none of the movies since 1980 have captured that. None of them have understand that that's what Superman is about. And so we'll see if this new one has figured that out or not.
Yeah, we'll see. But I mean, it doesn't, when they say stuff like when they change the slogan from truth, justice, and the American way to truth, justice, and all those good things, it does feel like they're trying to light themselves on fire, which I don't understand, because because James Gunn is the executive of the studio. He is the studio head. So he should be aware that this doesn't work in terms of bottom line, that there's no reason to say those things, even if you harbor those thoughts. It's the same way, John, that, for example, when I come in the show, I try to be as unfiltered as possible. I try to be as unfiltered as I can at Breitbart, but I'm way less excited to talk about things that I think the core audience will not like. Like, I will talk about them when they're important. I'm not excited about them. And when you get people who are going to be taking their families, and when it's a family movie, we're talking about buying 3, 4, 5 tickets at a time also. So if I was thinking about this with my family, like if I decide, for example, that, we were on the fence about going to Elio, the latest Pixar movie, and we decided against it. That's not $11, John. That's $100. Like, that's $100 that we just decided we're not going to do. And because there's 5 of us. And if you thought of it that way, I mean, you would never in a family movie. I just don't understand how you could we're going to just try to alienate huge cross sections of the audience before the movie's even out. I don't understand how that's possible. It's so idiotic. I can't quite wrap my mind around it.
Yeah. But James Gunn has to worry about, and I've always said this about Hollywood, they try to make as much money as possible up to a point. So they want to make money. That's always there, but up to a point. There's certain things they're not willing to do. And a guy like James Gunn is not going to risk his status within the Hollywood community by using the American way, even though everybody wants to come to America all around the world, because they'll claim, it's a worldwide movie. Well, it doesn't matter. Everybody loves America. Everybody wants to come here. Look at our illegal immigration problem. But they're only willing to do that up to a point. And they're willing to alienate people, and they're thinking, well, I could still make, this movie could probably still make 600 million worldwide. Okay, if I didn't create a controversy, it would make 700 million, but it's still in profit. So that's fine. I just need to make enough so that I make enough. I don't need to cast my net to the magatards, even though I'd make more money. And that's just the way that they think. And it's ridiculous, because even people that aren't really might not be conservative or even consider themselves patriotic, I think all of us are a little tired of how Hollywood is just destroying our icons. We like our icons to remain our icons. And James Gunn has a fascinating opportunity, which is what Richard Donner did so brilliantly in Superman, the movie in 1978. He has an opportunity to say, what do you do with this character in this environment? and you take a guy who believes in right and wrong and you put him in the modern day environment, and there's so much room for conflict there. There's so much room for soul searching, which of course is what creates characters. And they just can't do it. And that's what Richard Donner did. I mean, he dropped the big blue Boy Scout in the middle of the go-go 70s and totally pulled it off. Thanks in large part to Christopher Reeve, but they just totally pulled it off. And then they pulled it off again in the second one. And they just don't see that here. They want to update the character rather than create that dilemma. And it's lazy and it's not as interesting.
Yeah, why not just do a great character with the benefits of modern technology and the ability to, appeal to audiences that maybe are less patient, and there are ways to do things in an updated way for the modern audience that might work. You could pull the best ideas, but instead they just reject the best parts of it, which is what a lot of these Disney things, or this is not Disney, but a lot of the Disney things that was awesome. That's what we saw with the Snow White stuff. Let's take the good stuff out and let's replace it with
ridiculous.
Yes. I'm fascinated by it. I'm just fascinated.
You look at the movies they did with the Addams Family and the Brady Bunch in the 90s. They took the Brady Bunch and they put them in the 90s. They took the Addams Family and they put them in the 90s. They didn't change the characters. Yeah. They just put them in the modern era. And It was a fantastic, both of those, there were two movies for two Brady Bunch movies and two Addams Family, and they were both great because they didn't change the icons. They put the icons in the modern world and said, oh, let's see what happens. And the results were fantastic.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And I don't know. I just look. Maybe it turns out to be good. It just seems very silly, and I don't know why. I don't understand. So, but we'll see. We'll I got some. Misty pulled some clips from it for us. I mean, let's see. Let's see what she got for us.
Inside. He's back. You're for 5 o'clock.
Copy.
12C. 18A. 34B.
So those of you who are just listening to the show, there's a clip from the movie. Superman's fighting some monster over the streets of, I guess, Chicago. That was supposed to be. Lex Luthor is very intensely controlling a bunch of a bunch of people with a lot of monitors. It looks very high tech, and everything is very chaotic. It's just really fast paced cuts and just real cartoonish, almost like a theme park energy so far.
34B. 98Z.
Mid-air fight. They're choking each other. Some robotic monster. Oh, he's punched Superman.
4014.
Well, so it's not a dark. It's a selfie joke. It's not a dark, brooding Superman. I don't know what your take is on that. I don't know. I kind of like the dark, brooding superheroes, but it kind of works for me. That's been an okay trend. Any reaction to that clip, John?
Yeah, it just another tech AI guy is the villain. It just seems very tired, and you don't feel any sense of suspense watching.
Feels tired.
That sequence. It just feels like you're watching someone else play a video game, which is practically what's happening. But we'll see. I'll see it in a few hours, and I'll let you know.
It reminds me of the flashback. I'm having flashbacks when I tried to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and they do the thing where it's made for Netflix, and so the first scene is so crazy. And there's so much going on because they're trying to get you to not scroll away. They're trying to and you can see the design. It's like, oh, you've hovered over the tile and they want you to not leave, just to click on the tile. And it feels so forced, and it feels like you're pandering towards ADHD 8-year-olds. And maybe that's the core audience. It probably is for Superman. I mean, so anyway, not a lot of promise in that clip for me. It doesn't seem like a lot for me in that. All right. So we got James Gunn talking about stuff. Let's see what Misty pulled.
You make them so human through their relationships, through their family. And I'm starting to wonder, are you going through $10 bazillion 10-month therapy sessions for putting parts of yourself in these movies? It just seems so real.
I don't know. I don't know how much of me that really is in the movie. I just, I kind of go into a different state when I'm writing and, finding these characters. And I grew up with Superman. I feel so close to him and the whole gang that it just is the way that, it's what I find interesting. What I find interesting is seeing this character. We know his mythology. We know who the character is, where he's from, and focusing on different parts of Superman than maybe we normally do. So instead of focusing on him when he's just falling in love with Lois or him when he's married with Lois, it's him in a part of the relationship where Lois is like, we've been dating for a couple months, but he's an alien. He's a little weird. I don't really know how I feel. He's very hot, but, and then focusing on the psychology of the character of like, who is he and how would he feel? What would be an emotional crisis for Superman? And then trying to portray that on film without being too maudlin or sentimental or over the top. But what is his experience as a human being, as a person? And how can he change and grow in an interior fashion? Because we're not really focused usually on the interior of Superman.
I thought it was brilliant.
So that's a fun contrast to that clip that had none of that. It was just like video game fighting in the air. Superman's punching a robot in the air. Elon Musk is the bad guy coordinating, all of the evil things that are happening in the world. Then no, but he's really sentimental. He's growing up. He's falling in love. He's trying to figure out his place in the world. Like, all that sounds nice, but we'll see if that's in the movie. It certainly wasn't in the clips that they've been putting out.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to really know. Because he's all over the place in that clip. And you really need to know, you should be able to narrow down what your character's going through with a very simple sentence or two. And he's talking about the interior, and maybe he's trying to avoid spoilers, I don't know. But just so everyone knows, that picture of Christopher Reeve up there, that includes a piece of his belt that he wore when he was filming Superman, the yellow belt that he wore. So there's a little piece of that in there. I won that. It's the only thing I've ever won in my life. And it's very, very.
How'd you win it?
Precious thing to me.
Yeah, we were huge and nonstop, and my favorite growing up was the Christopher Reeve Superman. How did you win it?
I was at an autograph show at Burbank, and I had the ticket. I had the ticket number. They were calling off ticket numbers. It was basically a raffle. If you buy a ticket, your number, and if it matches, and they were calling it off and calling it off. And I didn't even check because I never win anything. I didn't even check until they said last chance or we're going to go to someone else. And I thought, okay, I'll check. And it was me. And I won it. So that's the only thing I ever won, right? And I love it. I just love it. It's such a nice thing to have. Nice memento.
And it's right there in the set. So, all right. Well, we'll see if the new Superman lives up to that. All right. The last one, John, I only got a minute, but the Washington Post had a story that literally said, I am a clown. Donald Trump is not one of us. Real clowns bring joy to the world, not chaos to Washington. This was In the Democracy Dies in Darkness, right under that banner. And it's a picture of a guy with bubbles all around him and a red clown nose, but he's got a serious face on. Tim Cunningham, professional clown and board president of nonprofit Clowns Without Borders. Obviously, there's a tongue-in-cheek element to some of this, and it definitely gets attention and is amusing. So I'm sure we're getting trolled to some degree, but it is. I just don't know how these papers, how they're going to survive if this is their most clever idea they can have.
Yeah, it's, I've said this many times here, and these newspapers, the Washington Post and the New York Times especially, they are totally controlled by their subscribers. They lost all the normal people that read that subscribed. They lost advertisers because of the internet. So now they have to survive by feeding their far left subscribers. And we're talking about mostly neurotic white women, affluent white women. And they've got to publish this crap, because that's what they want to see. They just, stick it to Trump, stick it to Trump. And I'll guarantee you that clown, whoever wrote that, gave nowhere near as much joy as Trump did working the fry station at McDonald's. I mean, that guy can spread joy when he wants to, and he can do things that just totally win you over and make you smile and make you shake your head. And this clown, I bet, didn't do anything like that. And not only that, but he's betraying the entire idea of a clown by bringing politics into it. I mean, the moment you bring politics into something, you remove the joy. And that's what this clown is guilty. Now, I haven't read the piece. This is the first I even heard about the piece. I've been outside baking under the sun. But it seems to me a betrayal of his profession to get very divisive politically. It's just these people, they're just so broken. It's unbelievable.
Well, and it's also, the piece is mostly pretty earnest. Let's find a better metaphor to despise and depose fascism, keep clown out of Trumpian comparisons, and for that matter, all politics, which is ironic because the guy is getting political with this. Offer clown the respect it deserves and invoke us for good in alliance with other artists, activists, and humans who believe in a better, happier world. When I think activists, I think clowns. That's what I associate. For centuries, clowns have been uniting people in laughter, levity, and creativity. That's what real clowns have to offer. If you're still stuck on the broken comparison ingrained in our national dialogue, here's an alternative. Try buffoon. I think it's serious. It's like an earnest thing.
And
the really serious clown.
The legends, the entertainers, the legendary entertainers of the past, the Bing Crosbys, the Johnny Carsons, that era, the Red Skeltons, they're, of course they wanted to make money. Of course they had big egos. Many of them were toxic people. But they got their sustenance from making people happy, from making the audience feel something. That's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
When they were singing, when they were they just wanted to spread laughter and tears and emotions. And this new breed, that's not what they want. They want to make a political point. They want to lecture us. They want to shame us. And this clown is a clown. It's just a set, what is he doing? Why would he even do that? That is such a violation of the clown's Hippocratic oath to bring politics to try to shame us. It's just dumb. They're just blowing
really weird hill to die on.
Themselves.
Well, thank you, Jeff Bezos and the Democracy Dies in Darkness crowd. All right, John, I kept you way over what you agreed to, and that's kind of you. And I wish you the best rest of your vacation and good luck with Superman. And you'll have to report back and tell us how it actually is at Breitbart.com. And that's it for now. The media is broken. For decades, big cable and legacy media have filtered information to hide the truth. That's why America's trust in mass media is at an all-time low. But new media is breaking through with podcasts, places like Breitbart. We're doing it in increasing numbers. 100 million Americans now listen to a podcast every week. That's crazy. 70% listen to podcasts on their mobile devices, which is great. I know that's how I listen. But big cable has one major way to control information, and that's access. They do this by limiting something called spectrum. Those are the invisible airwaves that power affordable wireless internet. And by forcing you into their bundles, keeping independent media out of reach. Leaders in Congress like Senator Ted Cruz are working to expand spectrum access for more Americans. President Trump expanded access to spectrum in his first term and has endorsed the plan to reduce our deficit by billions of dollars by doing it again now. Conservative leaders like Stephen Moore have argued it's a perfect fit for President Trump's economic agenda. All of this is something that is on the cutting edge, and we want to get you all the information you need to understand what's going on and how you can take advantage of it. EndTheCableopoly.org is the website. EndTheCableopoly.org for more information. You tell your senator, tell your member of Congress to work with Senator Cruz, work with President Trump, and work to end the legacy media's monopoly on spectrum. EndTheCableopoly.org. All right, our Marlowe and Friends Friday continues with the one and only John Carney, one of the most important men in American media. John, how's summer vacation going for you?
It's going very well. We've had a couple nice days. Though it's been raining a lot lately, but the weekend's looking good. So get some poolside time in.
Did you have a pool at your house?
I do have a swimming pool at my house.
Is that worth the effort? Because I feel like for me, it's interesting because I live in an area where you need pool access. Like it's 101 right now. So you can't realistically, you would never choose a place without it. But I have it in the HOA pool. And for the age of my kids, I feel like that's preferable.
Yeah.
Because to pay for pool upkeep and to risk drowning deaths, it would be not great, but are you happy to have it?
I am happy. So my kids are a little older than yours, and it's a great social device in that, like, we moved into the countryside from Brooklyn. And if you want to meet people and you're, 12, 13 years old, being able to say like, hey guys, you want to come over to my house and swim in the pool? It's amazing. Just my kids just met so many people from the pool.
It's got that effect on people. So we're in peak, T-ball age, right. And my boys were on the same team, and there was an amazing team and just terrific families, just salt the earth people. And a lot of them were overlapped from last year. So we had some history. And so, the end of last T-ball season, I threw a party for the T-ball team at my house, and, John, I got to be honest with you. It was one of the best parties I've ever been to. I mean, this thing was popping, and everyone's like getting along great. And then I showed up as like the first practice, and even though everyone knew I threw a banging party and would do it again, I had been informed. I think this is literally practice 1 or practice 2. You're not going to be throwing the party this year. Caden's going to be throwing the party because he's got a pool. I don't even know who Caden is. He's 4 and he just got here, but apparently he's in charge of the party. And it was only because of the pool. Like that's it. It's just that people need a pool.
I will tell you one thing. It can give you a sense of accomplishment. I, of course, lived in an apartment, had no idea what to do with a pool. I now can manage my own pool. It is crystal clear. I know like what you need to add. It's a saltwater pool, so it's not that much chemicals, but I know what to add. I know how to test it. It's like one of these things that and then you feel really good. I don't know how useful really that knowledge is in the world, but as a man and you figure stuff out and you learn, okay, I know how to work the pool pump. I know how to, make the pool be swimmable again. I feel really, really accomplished. And like I say to my wife on weekends, I'm like, look at what I have done. I have made the pool. It's amazing.
It is something that it's funny because we all choose to be handy in certain ways, I think, but we don't have enough time to be handy in all ways. So that for me, I spent 50 minutes yesterday doing the car seat deep clean and reassemble and reattachment, and just great sense of satisfaction. And it's important to do that stuff. Work with your hands a little bit. We all have it so easy. It's important to commune with that part of our brains.
It is.
Carney, you are a genius at understanding what's going on in Trump's economy. And there's a couple of things I want to flag for you, and then I want to get into some of the trade deals. But overall, one of the stories of the year thus far is Trump's job growth is for Americans. Biden's job growth was all migrants, foreigners. This is the essence of America First. There's nothing more quintessentially America First than this, is that we're creating jobs for Americans and American families. And I think about, my family and how just the thought of people in my family who have lineage here and will be part of the tax base here and will be part of the culture here, like if they could miss out on a job because someone from a foreign land is willing to do it for 20% or 10% cheaper, it offends me at such a deep level. And yet that has been the norm in this country until apparently this year.
Yeah, look, it was one of these perverse things that was going on in the Biden administration where you'd get these really good jobs numbers and people would celebrate them and be like, oh, look, we created 200,000 jobs, 150,000 jobs. And then you would look into it, and most of the job gains were going to foreigners. And you wondered, well, wait a minute. What's the purpose of job gains in America, right? Like, why are we happy when we have more jobs? It's supposed to be because our fellow Americans got more jobs, not because we imported more workers and gave them jobs. That didn't really make sense. Sure, it was a sign that the economy was growing because you were employing people, but it wasn't a sign that it was growing, frankly, for the people who were electing the elected officials who were supposed to make sure that it was growing for Americans. Donald Trump has turned that around. All of the net job gains this year have gone to Americans.
So what does that mean?
Well, so what it means is, of course, every month, every week, every day in America, lots of people lose their jobs and lots of people get new jobs, right? So it's not really that no foreigner has gotten a job, and it was clearly not true that no American got a job when Biden was president. But what it means is that when you are adding up all the people who gained and all the people who lost, the net increase in jobs is going to Americans, whereas in during the Biden administration, you had fewer Americans being employed every month and more foreigners being employed. So the net gain was all going to foreign workers, to migrants of some sort or another. Now it's going to Americans. It's going to native-born Americans. That's actually quite interesting too. It's not just going to people who are legal residents of the United States. It's actually going to people who are American-born people. This is very important, again, because that's fundamentally who the country is supposed to work for the people we have here. And it is working for them again, for us again. And I think that frankly it's going to lead to better wage growth. One of the reasons wage growth gets bad is when businesses believe that they can just import new workers. They don't give people raises because they say, oh, you know what? I got more workers in the pipeline. I can just draw people over the border. So without that, they have to start bidding against each other, basically a competitive bidding war for American workers. And that's what we're seeing in the wage gains. The other thing that's going on in the jobs numbers is that the wage numbers are now outpacing inflation, which is, again, the reverse of what we saw under Biden, where inflation consistently outpaced wage gains. These are not like disconnected phenomenon. I think they're actually the same thing. Wage gains are better than inflation because jobs are going to Americans.
So one thing that is also noteworthy that I wanted to talk about, I brought this up briefly on Wednesday's show, but I did want your take on this. I looking at some Business Insider numbers, and this is not the freshest of data, but it showed that unemployment rates are higher than it takes a while to calibrate this stuff. So we're not necessarily even looking at Trump's economy, but I do think this spells out a bigger trend. But there's quite a number of STEM field industries that are not doing as well as you would think, including things like computer engineering, are seeing higher than average unemployment. And of course, there's obvious stuff like, fine arts. I mean, things where you don't know, well, what job do you get? Like with this degree, I'm kind of shocked. It says, just anything under 10% unemployment is impressive in some ways with some of these fields. But when you study science and you take on a big chunk of debt to get these degrees, the anticipation is that it used to be you would get a Lexus and a country club membership and on the road to a nice little house in the suburbs with a picket fence. And now you might not get a job at all. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think for one thing, you should always be wary when everybody tells you to go into a field, because everybody else is being told that as well, right? So you had this learn to code period where everybody said, we need more STEM graduates, we need more coders. Well, that tends to overproduce whatever it is that people are doing. And the other thing is when you're telling young people we need more coders, you're telling people who are in high school to think about what they're going to major in college. So you're really looking down like 6 to 10 years down the road, and you don't really know what the demand is going to be for those positions. So a lot of these jobs have actually gone away. We need less coders than we did, in part because of AI, in part just because other parts of coding have gotten more efficient. So you just need fewer people. There has been a problem where we've imported a lot of coders and we've exported a lot of coding. So a lot of coding is now done in India. It's done in Malaysia. It's done abroad. So that's also leading to a higher unemployment rate. And we're bringing in H-1B workers to do a lot of this work. That's a bad thing as well. But even without those parts, I think that we are seeing that we actually need fewer of these people. We overproduce them. It was probably irresponsible for people for the government, for all the official channels to really push people to do this, because we got too many. And so therefore we have too high of an unemployment rate. A lot of these people are going to have to look into other fields, which is really disappointing. If you spend 4 years getting a very hard degree, like a computer programming degree, is not an easy thing. So you spend 4 years training yourself to do something. And now, frankly, they used to tell people who had lost their jobs at a factory, learn to code. And now these people are going to have to learn to weld. They're going to have to learn to do something else.
Learn to weld, man. That's gonna be the phrase. So it's just very interesting because a lot of people, people in my personal life even were sending their kids to coding camp and stuff, and they were just learning outdated skills, and it feels like, I don't know, maybe there's a puzzle element to it, maybe it's not. Maybe it's. I mentioned this to you last time that my all of my 6-year-old is learning about pop music because that's what gets played at the coding seminars that he's been doing at school. But what do you do for your families and children? Like, well, because the AI revolution's happening.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about? Your kids are a little older and further. Well, what's the recommendation?
So so this will be. I think that you should think of education, first of all, not necessarily as vocational training. Higher education actually should be your introduction into Western culture, because you don't know what you're going to be called upon to do in the economy. Look, I was trained as a lawyer. I now practice journalism at Breitbart. You don't really know your faith or your path in life, where you're going to end up. And so what I would say is don't over determine what you think your child's going to do, because you don't know whether that job will really be in demand in the future. It's probably a good idea for kids to know some coding, because it's a useful skill. It's a good idea for them to learn about AI, but we don't know whether we will need, if you have a 6-year-old now, do you know that we will need a bunch of AI prompters in 14 years? No, of course not, right? So we just don't know. So what I would say is, look, make sure your kids get a well-rounded education that can prepare them to be nimble and adaptive in whatever economy we have.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can change careers. It does happen. People really do it. I will mention John does the Breitbart Business Digest also. It's must read every day. It's always great. The Amazon Prime Day sales are down for 41% in the first day. Is it just because it's supposed to be 4 days this year? I was kind of struck by how Amazon gets so much wrong. I get so little wrong. How could they blow this? What do you think happened?
Yeah. So first of all, I do think that I've seen just a lot less about Amazon Prime than I usually do. And usually it's everywhere, and it just wasn't everywhere this time. I don't know why exactly that is. I do think that it probably is the fact that they stretched it out over 4 days, that that it's not really that if you have 4 Amazon Prime days that you're going to get 100% of the 1-day sales for 4 days in a row. It's going to be stretched out. So I don't think investors are going to panic too much about seeing the first day being low, because I think people are going to say, okay, maybe, in the end, it may be an advance on last year, so it might not be a disaster. The other thing is you do have to wonder at some point, how many of these things do people need, right? Like Amazon Echoes and all of the gadgets that people have in their homes. There has to be not a complete saturation rate, but I remember when they first came out with these, like the dots that were, home assistants, and you could talk to them. And then they put screens on them, and then the screens got bigger, and then the screens could rotate around and follow you around the room. But the new ones aren't actually much different than the other ones. Apple has this problem too, right? Like, how big can they make the screen? How good can they make the camera to drive new sales? I think that's there hasn't been a big upgrade in the technology to force people to want to buy things. And I think probably people look around and say,
no, yeah, it used to go from a treat to now it's dread, because I don't want to switch over my stuff. So when you get the new computer, the new phone, like I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Every time you get a new one, you spend like a week trying to update everything to make it work again, to make it work as well as the old one.
Yeah, it's usually I was thinking about how my computer now, I think I'm probably due for an upgrade, and I definitely to take it in and to get it a tune up, and I can't part with it. It's just the whole life shuts down for a while to deal with that. Are there any parts of the economy that you're concerned about. The Daily Mail had a big story about how there's a jobs apocalypse taking place. I mean, it's very theatrical, but a lot of it has to do with HR. And I think this AI being able to do more HR stuff. And there's a lot of industries that are going to go away fairly quick, I think, with AI. And it's a real big deal. But what about HR in particular? But are you seeing any places where you think people should run for the hills?
So look, companies don't want to admit this too openly. They say it more quietly, but there is an HR apocalypse coming on because HR was code for DEI. Companies had staffed up these giant diversity squads within their companies, and they are dissolving them. I mean, literally dissolving them. Now, that doesn't mean everybody loses their job. Some people are getting shifted around to different departments, but a lot of companies realized that what they had been doing is, one, illegal. They were counting how many of what race and what gender and what sexuality they were, the people they were interviewing were. They realized, look, the Supreme Court has basically said you got to cut that out. Then Donald Trump has issued executive orders saying if you are a federal contractor, which, by the way, every big company, every big law firm, every big bank, every big manufacturer, that all of the big companies are federal contractors in one way or another. And he said, you got to cut it out. No more race discrimination in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that is the secret behind this HR apocalypse, is all of these people who were hired because it was hard to do. Like, it's not easy to rig your employment so that you're not hiring just the best people, but you're hiring the right amount of each demographic group so that you're racially discriminating, but hiding your racial discrimination. Now that they're not doing it, they're letting some of those people go. They're not hiring new people. They're dissolving the groups altogether. And so, yes, that's a big problem. I think if the thing I tell people is look at restaurant sales and look at restaurant employment. That is one of the ultimate discretionary parts of the economy.
Yeah.
And so if you want to find out, if you want to see a month from now, 6 months from now, how is the economy doing? Look at the discretionary spending, because that's the first thing people pull back on. And that'll show up in restaurants. So that's what I'd say to watch for. It's not necessarily like a long-term employment problem for people, but it is, how's the economy doing? How are the restaurants doing?
And how are they doing?
Well, so far they've been doing pretty well. Particularly, there's been actually a kind of divergence. Low-income people have actually pulled back from restaurant spending, in part because, frankly, we've had less food inflation in the grocery store. We went through this weird period where it felt like eggs were so expensive you might as well take your family out to eat because you couldn't buy food at home. We're now getting to a point where that's not true anymore. It makes sense to cook at home. It always really did, but it did feel like at one point groceries got so expensive you might as well go out. So lower-income families are pulling back. But middle and higher income families are actually still eating out a lot. The dining out spending that you can tell companies watch this through, like Bank of America tracks it through credit card usage. They're actually still spending a lot. So the restaurants are doing pretty well. Particularly, I would say like the not necessarily the lowest end restaurants, but slightly above that are actually doing quite well, and we haven't really seen a pullback yet. If we do see a pullback in that,
so are they doing quite well in terms of volume, or because I wonder about the margins on that stuff? Because if you think about a lot of fast food these days, like I go to In-N-Out, and the margins have got to be low just because it's so cheap, and they're just going on raw volume. And then, you go to a middle class chain where you sit down and the food is marginally better, if not worse, and the price is 3.5 times. So I'm just wondering if, like, what that.
Yeah, look, the truth is all restaurants at any price point need the right amount of volume, right? Like, because the one of the reasons the markup it is so high in those places is that they have a lot more labor expense. They have somebody comes to your table, they've got to keep the place clean, they've got busboys and cooks, and it's a lot more labor expense. And so they do need the volume in order to stay profitable. The margins are not actually that large because they get eaten up by the labor. But they're doing pretty well, actually. Like the sales are the volume has stayed high, and so and frankly they're being helped by the fact that food inflation has slowed down, which I think actually then prompts people to feel like they can eat out a little more. When we were going through that period where like every time you went out to eat, things were just more and more expensive.
Yeah.
That had a lot of people being, frankly angry. They were like, people were tipping less. I have a friend who works as a maitre d' at a very high end restaurant in New York City, and he said there were like even rich people stopped tipping, very well because they were upset that they were, like they'd get their bill and they'd be like, I can't believe my hamburger costs this much. And instead of tipping 20% on the hamburger that cost $50, they would tip 10% because they felt like they were getting ripped off. He said the tips have grown back, which, by the way, will be a big boon now that, you don't have to pay taxes on your tips. So,
what's the limit exactly officially on the taxes on tips? Because it's capped, right?
Yeah, it's capped. It's not very high. It's like $25,000.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, I think that's a great, personally, from my vantage point. I think that's a great hedge. But also, I mean, if you're a full-time waiter in New York City, I mean, that can be a six-figure job if you're at a good spot. So that's going to be. So
you get you will be able to deduct. The way I understand it is you will be able to have a deduction for some of your tips, but not for the whole thing, which is fine.
Yeah. I think it works great. I brought up on the show. I just want to make sure I didn't have it wrong since you're here.
I just wanted to, I was upset personally because I was going to ask you to just start paying me in tips.
Yeah, I know. Up to 25.
Yeah, Breitbart Business Digest. Just put a tip jar on the bottom.
You know what I could do, and in fact I will do this if the show gets big enough. But I will create a tip jar for the show, and I will say specifically you can tip certain guests. Because especially some of my regulars who don't get paid to be here and are just here because they're passionate about their craft. It's just you guys deserve a tip, and maybe this is a way to come up with a little bonus pool for the. Yeah,
I don't know if the IRS will let us get away with it, but you know what? Let's give it a try. Let's go for it. I
think they will, though, because it's like, why, if you're doing something for free or for cheap, like why couldn't you give a tip? I had to figure it out.
There is a limit about like, it has to be something that people got tipped for in the past. However, entertainers have gotten tips.
Yeah.
Right. Like you go to see a comedy show and they say pass around a hat a lot of times, remember. So I don't know. Maybe if I tell a couple more jokes in these things, I'll count as a entertainer, and they can then we can start to collect the tips.
We're making it a priority. Okay. Let's see. Let's check in on interest rates and the Fed. Trump has declared the U.S. is officially back once lower interest rates. I mean, there's not. I don't know if this moves the needle, but your take.
I love that Trump loves trying to work the reps, right? He is just telling the Fed, he's not trying to interfere with the Fed's independence, but he's saying, look, I think the rates should be lower. They probably should be lower. Trump, though, I will say, has a monetary theory that is very different from what the Fed has. Trump says, look, the U.S. is the best credit in the world. We have the best economy. We have the best government. We should pay lower interest rates than everyone else. The Fed and basically every central bank in the world actually looks at it differently. They tend to lower rates if they think the economy is doing bad, not when it's doing good. They lower rates to try to juice the economy a little bit. Trump is coming at it from a different angle, and he may have a point. Maybe we're doing it wrong. Maybe actually what we should be saying is there's very little inflation. The economy is doing well. People would still buy all of our government bonds at much lower interest rates. So maybe the Fed should cut. Like I said, it's unconventional. I actually have talked about this a couple times in Breitbart Business Digest. Trump is challenging this is what he does, right? He challenges the status quo. He asks us to try to think about things differently. He's doing that on monetary policy, and it'll be interesting to see. Will it work? We're not going to find out until Jay Powell's gone, which will be a year from now. But whoever comes in next, I think Trump will want to know, hey, here's how I think monetary policy will work. Can you do it this way?
Yeah.
And I think that's
amazing. He's a one-of-a-kind guy in that way. He's so outside the box. One outside-the-box move that you've written up for us at Breitbart is Trump administration is taking a stake in a rare earth firm. This is one of these ones where they won't bill it as we're countering China, but of course it's about countering China, and the Pentagon's going to have a $400 million stake. It's a magnet company, I think. Like it does. Yeah. So explain the company. And just another thing, John, where I wake up and I see this outside the box stuff and I can't believe this is happening. But what's your assessment here? All right. We know that good coffee is kind of easy to find. There's a lot of good coffee out there, but great coffee, that's a different story. And when I was introduced to Crockett coffee, I knew this was something special. This is roasted to perfection in small batches on purpose by experts who love the taste of great coffee and are conscientious about how it's made and who's making it. It's roasted in our nation's heartland and it's delivered fresh to your home. When you enjoy Crockett coffee, you're also supporting an anti-communist, pro-American brand of coffee founded by our friends Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, who are good broadcasters and are apparently dang good at making a cup of coffee as well. The perfect type of thing to sip at a mountain campfire like a Western settler, or in your office while you're doing a podcast. It is just really high quality stuff. You guys know I'm a coffee snob, married to an Italian. I like to hit that dark roast. They also sent me some mild roast, which was delicious. They got a light roast. They got a decaf. They got a mushroom organic blend. That's the new hotness. They got K-Cups. Lots of different options for you. And part of your support goes to Tunnel to Towers Foundation, which is a great way to give back and remind people that Crockett Coffee, people there, they pledge to never forget. Easy. Go online, crockettcoffee.com. Crockett like it as in Davy Crockett. crockettcoffee.com. Use my first name, Alex. You get 20% off your first order. That's crockettcoffee.com. Use my name, Alex, as the promo code for 20% off. Good people and a dang good cup of coffee. You guys know I would not endorse it if it wasn't quite delightful.
Well, so first of all, it's one of these things that once it's being done, you're like, why didn't this happen already? This is so obvious that we cannot be dependent on China. So a lot of rare earths are the things that are in the ground that you pull up. Then they get turned into rare earth magnets. So this is call it a rare earth processing plant. Okay. Mm-hmm. And these are used in all sorts of technology, but in particular, the reason why it's the Pentagon doing the investment is it is absolutely critical to a lot of defense technology. And so the problem is we couldn't get anybody in the U.S. to invest in expanding our production of this stuff because basically China was threatening to wipe out the business. If you put money into a new factory, China was saying, we'll drop the price down to zero. You'll go out of business. Then we'll raise the price again and charge whatever we want. They did this already once. Actually, they've done it twice. They wiped out U.S. production earlier. This meant nobody would invest in it. By having the U.S. government come in alongside private investors and do this, we're saying we're not going to let China wipe out this business. And actually, the Pentagon has also agreed they're going to buy 100% of that this factory will never not be able to sell its production to the Pentagon. They will keep buying it. That's important because it sends a message to China, hey, cut it out. We're not going to let you wipe out this business again. That actually probably will invite more private investment into this space because people will see, all right, the U.S. government has our back. They're not going to leave us at the mercy of China. You're right. It's all about China. And frankly, it's something that we should have done 10 years ago. We probably should have done it 15 years ago.
Yep, of course. But we didn't even think of it. Like, there's no discussion. Not even the smart people thought of it. So
exactly.
I love it.
Yes, it would have been better to have already done it, but the best time to have done it was yesterday. The next best time is today. And so I'm really pleased that we're doing it.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, the last one that I will bring up for now, there's so many places we could go, but I want to talk about Musk a little bit. And he's on this generational losing streak where he just can't seem to do anything right. And then he announces a new Grock, which seems very impressive, but then it's giving all these really bizarre instructions to people to do bad things and how to do bad things. And so, clearly not in total control there. And now he wants to put Grock AI into Tesla vehicles. I don't know why that's an incentive, but Tesla is doing very badly because now Musk is taking on Trump again. So the stock tanked again. Musk wants to start this new political party, which the platform seems very much like the libertarian platform. And third parties are traditionally only spoilers in this country. And he's doing it at a moment where Trump seems to be firing on all cylinders. So it's just, I want to get your thoughts on what's going on over there. And if there's anything in particular in any of these series of facts that make sense to you.
Yeah. So look, I think that I've actually talked to some people in AI about their problem with doing ethics. They're all doing it wrong. Frankly, they should all call me up. I'll tell them how to do it right. We have a Western system of ethics based on the Greeks, the Romans. Call it Athens, Rome, London, Jerusalem. That's what you need to base your system on. If you try to teach a computer to do things from scratch, it won't do it well. You actually need to recreate not even recreate, bring in the Western system of ethics, which is, the shorthand for the Judeo-Christian tradition. That's what, don't be surprised when your computer is weird and evil when you are trying to teach it from scratch how to do something that it took us thousands of years to produce, right? Like, we have a good system of ethics. We should be using that in AI. I know how to do it. The tech guys are trying to figure it out. Eventually, they'll come around and figure it out. But look, Musk's investors were really psyched when he got out of the government. Right. Because they want him to run a car company. He was and a space company and Twitter. They're happy with him running companies. He is, this idea that he's going to have this centrist party. It doesn't work, in part because, yes, a lot of Americans might not agree with the Republican Party on 100% of the issues, and they don't agree with the Democratic Party on 100% of the issues. But the idea that there's some group in the middle that all agree with each other is just fiction. They don't exist. There aren't people who are like, oh yeah, I want to get together and, with these other people. The reason why we actually tend to divide into two parties is even if it's not perfectly mapping onto people's preferences, it actually does a better job of enacting people's preferences. Good luck to him. It's fun. I like it that there's a little competition with the parties. I don't think it's going to be very successful. As you said, the Libertarian Party never really went anywhere. They tend to be spoilers. The Green Party doesn't go anywhere. The most successful people we've had running third parties, frankly, was Ross Perot in recent times. And he was 100% running on protectionism. That's what he ran on. He was running on opposing NAFTA. He was running on what was later on is now part of Trump's platform. So what are you going...
And a beef with the Bushes, and he helped Clinton win. So that's what, if Musk is running on a beef with Trump and he's just going to help Democrats win. All right. So we'll his big concern about the deficit will get much worse if he gets the Democrats. Yeah, because Democrats will win. Yeah, of course. Because he's a political neophyte. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if he's not faking it, and if I wonder if he just doesn't understand politics yet. If he's just missing key things. He's a smart guy. Maybe he'll learn over the next. We have. He usually does. I'm just shocked that he doesn't know this stuff. It's not that hard. This is not. necessarily easy stuff to understand, but just the path to reducing our debt and deficit was not going to be sabotage Big Beautiful Bill. That was just not going to be the path. So, and he just saw it as a total hill to die on. And we'll see how this is going to play out. I want to introduce one last one. It's happening. The Gavin Newsom has approved $101 million in new spending on low-income housing in areas devastated by fires, including the Palisades, one of the richest parts of the world. The epitome of the American dream, people going west, making their fortune, living by the beach in perfect weather, burns to the ground because largely Democrat mismanagement. And then the Democrats get to fulfill a dream of low-income housing, maybe look like The Wire, but in the Palisades, who knows what it's going to look like. John, I mean, this is
The
one of
Wire
these things.
2, The Palisades, right? That'll be the sequel.
But it makes me fear for the country because when bad behavior causes problems and all that does is mean rewards for the people who engage in the bad, irresponsible behavior, that's the type of stuff that makes me concerned.
And look, these things have a very bad history. When you try to, instead of allowing a community to grow organically, you come in and you say, the government's going to put a bunch of housing projects in here. Guess what? Instead of integrating the community with, low-income people moving into the rich area, you just turn the area into a low-income place because people say, I'm out, right? Like they're not going to move back into the Palisades if they feel like the house next door to them is going to be a housing project full of low-income people. So people will leave. It is not going to work out. I think, but the one thing I'll say is, maybe in this case, California's inability to build anything may save the Palisades. They are so bad in California at building anything at all that it may be that, for all of the $100 million of low-income housing, that you get like 2 houses, right? Like that they will spend so much money and have to fill so many interest groups' ideas of what they should build that it'll be almost nothing and not make a difference. It'll waste a lot of money, but it won't. It may not ruin the Palisades because frankly, they're really, really bad. When California's been trying to build high-speed rail for how long? They can't do it. I don't think they're going to build low-income housing anywhere either.
And also $101 million that will buy you probably 13 houses in the Palisades. Like, I'm not sure how much land.
Maybe.
I hate the idea of rewarding the bad guys after they screwed up, especially in my hometown. So that's that's what
you know what? I mean, I really don't. I think that they're going to fail. They will, they're not going to, because remember, one of the things when they say they're going to do this, it's not like they're going to build like one small house, right? And put a single family in the house. That wouldn't be a big deal. People would be fine. You build a couple of small houses. What they want to do is increase housing density. Whenever they try to increase housing density, though, the climate change people notice that this is going to increase pollution and emissions, and you'll need more transportation in the area. The roads will be busier. So it gets blocked by the left. And so I actually don't think that it's going to go anywhere. I think they're going to fail at their attempt because it is the problem. It's a metaphor, synecdoche for what's wrong with the Democratic Party. They can't build anything because all of their priorities get in the way of anything that they want to do.
Wow. And did you just use synecdoche?
Yes.
Wow. That
Remember
is
that from English class back in high school?
Yeah, that is one of the best ones. That is where a speech is. It's a figure of speech where you can't define something without the exact thing, right?
It's when like a small part stands for the large part.
Yeah, and I like that.
That is what the problem in California really is.
Beautiful.
Emblematic of what the problem is for the Democratic Party throughout the country.
John, you're a Renaissance man, and I'm sure you can teach me how to weld anticode in your spare time as well. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks to Misty and all of you in the audience for telling 10,000 friends and family members. Have a great weekend. Talk to you next time.